you probably might be aware, as the entire card list of Set 2 has been revealed to us a couple of days ago. But we haven't talked about it, so let's do that! Stand up! Vanguard! Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we're gonna do the last Cardfight update for Set 2, as now we know the entire card list, and we got 28 new cards to talk about and see what these last couple of rares and commons are going to bring for the respective 5 nations. Now, as I just said, there are 28 cards, so to not make this video any longer, let's jump straight into them, and we're gonna go rapid fire through them as fast as possible, because most of them aren't really that notariable. And if they bring something special, I will probably bring that up during the respective nation set review that I will probably do starting somewhere next week. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into the 2 new cards for Dragon Empire, from which one is this brand new common grade 2 Crossrock Dragon. And this grade 2 has the ability, although when this unit is placed on a rearguard circle, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and you may move it to your opponent's open front row rearguard circle. So this is a way to get access to their backward units so you can attack into them, or maybe you have a skill that can only target front row units with retire options. This is a nice way. Now, this is probably the most useful for Dragon Empire's Dragon Overlord variant, as now you can potentially hit into their grade 1 rear guards if they have no front row units, but in that sense it's basically a body on the grade 2 order that allows your units to attack in the back row. So because that order already exists in this set, this card is kind of redundant, but can come up if we get a Narukami-like playstyle ever in the future. But right now I think this card is kind of underwhelming. Now, the other card that we got for Dragon Empire is a brand new common grade 1 in the likes of Maiden, Aruna. And Aruna has the ability to continuous a rearguard circle. During the battle, this unit boosted to grade 0. This unit gets power plus 5k. So this is another addition to the whole grade 0 Trickstar engine, or the Maiden engine, that can capitalize on a new playstyle for Overdress. Now this is nice because it allows you to create an 18k column if you attack with your Trickstar for the whole multi-attack shenanigans, and 18k is actually really solid on a non-Persona right turn, so it could potentially be a 28k. So I can definitely see some potential, but it's very specific, so you have to decide for yourself if you like this card or not. Now, if we move on to Dark States, we got a couple of new cards for Dark States, as first up we got a brand new common grade 3 in the likes of Steam Knight Pashaltatar, and this grade 3 has the ability act on rearguard circle. If your soul has 4 or less cards, put this unit into your soul, choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. So you lose 1 card to get 1 soul and 5k power to a unit. I'm not a fan of this because we got way better cards, and this is specifically for Bruce, as the whole condition doesn't really apply to Bear Magnus. So I'm not really that excited about it. Yes, the 5k gets to a unit that can restand, so you get double value, but overall we got better cards, so we can definitely move on from this card. Now, another grade 3 that we got for Darkseid is Spherical Splasher, and this grade 3 has the ability to continue as a rearguard circle. If your Vanguard is Master of Gravity Bear Magnus, this unit gets power plus 5k. So where the other grade 3 was Bruce support, this is Bear Magnus support, and it's basically an 18k attacker. There's no real need for this, because Bear Magnus already got an 18k attacker in the likes of the grade 1 from the right line, and because it's the grade 1, it can also be a booster, and it has shield if you draw it into your hand. So yeah, this card, I'm not really a fan of it. Now, if we move over to the grade 2s, we've got a common grade 2 in the likes of Steam Artist Napier, with the ability continues on Guardian Circle. If your soul has 5 or more cards, this unit gets shield plus 5k. So it's 10k shield that can also be an interceptor. So it's similar to the one that we got from the starter deck for Dark State, only that one costs a counterblast. This is effectively free. Yes, you need to have 5 soul, but if you're gonna play Baron Magnus, this is actually just really good extra shield value. You're probably not gonna play this in Bruce because we already have a Blitz Order card with the same condition, but it gets 15k shield. But that is already kind of annoying for Bruce, as you usually don't have the 5 soul during your defensive stages. This could be a nice addition for Baron Magnus though. Now, another grade 2 that we got for Darkseid is Pestle and Talon, and this grade 2 has the ability auto front or rearguard circle. When your Vanguard is placed, soul charge 1. It's very simple, it's extra soldiers options. Because it's grade 2, it basically only activates from turn 3 onwards, and it seems we have no superior right engine or something that can do that during the battle phase to get more on right skills. And this is relatively slow in my opinion, and there are probably better options, but maybe you want that one extra soul charge point, you could go this route, but honestly, I don't think it's gonna be all that great. but we had this. Now, if we move down to the grade 1s, we see Diabolus Boy's Chester, and this grade 1 has the ability continues a regular circle. During the battle, this unit boosted a Vanguard. This gets power plus 5k. So it's a 13k booster, which is nice on the turn 2 play because that's 23, so that hits actually pretty decent numbers. But once we go to our grade 3 turns, it gets awkward with just 26, which doesn't really hit a magic number. So it's there, but the fact that it's specifically behind the Vanguard means it's very limited in usage. So I don't know if I like this all too much. You might find it, you might like this because it's one of the strongest boosters we have, but 10k boosters also exist, and 10k boosters behind the Vanguard achieve the same as this unit, only they can then also be placed on the rearguard circle. Which, talking about, the next card, Deformed Hammer, is the 10k booster, because that's the ability continues a rearguard circle during your turn. If you have 5 or more cards in your soul, this unit gets power plus 2k, so it's a 10k booster. Granted, this won't really work in Bruce all that well, because it's a continuous ability and not auto, so the moment you activate Bruce affecting your soul plus 5, you probably won't have the soul requirement to be a 10k booster, so if it boosts the Vanguard, you lose that power, so it's kind of awkward there, and definitely as a rearguard booster during the side columns, you probably won't have that soul as well. For Baron Magnus, however, it's a complete different story, but Baron Magnus already has a grade 1 that can become 18k attackers or boosters, so I don't really like this card a lot, but hey, if you want to play with this, you have now 10k boosters in Dark State, because I believe they didn't have one in set 1. Now, with Dark States discussed, let's go over to Cater Sanctuary, and Cater Sanctuary surprisingly still had a double R left, which is this grade 2 Stellar Razor Angel, and it has the ability, could auto and rearguard circle when this unit attacks. If your damage zone has no face-up cards, this unit gets power plus 5k until the end of the battle. So it's a conditional 15k attacker, where it's basically old mouse support. Yeah, I don't really like this all too much because we already have 15k attackers all across the board. It is a grade 2, which gives maybe sorcerers something else to play with, but Bastion's definitely not going to use this, so it depends a little bit on your playstyle which you're going to like or not. At the very least, we got a couple of more grade 2s now, because Cater Sanctuary really lacked in the grade 2 department, but this doesn't really help all too much. But I know that the Sorcerer's build can use a lot of counterblast, so it might not be too hard to actually use this skill. But besides that, I wish it was a bit more for double R, but here we are. Now, that said, we do have another Angel Feather-like card, as we've got Additional Angel, which is a grade 1, and it has the ability, act on rearguard circle, cost Soulless 1, and put this unit into your damage zone. Choose a face-up grade 3 card from your damage zone, and call to the rearguard circle. This skill I like a lot, because it basically turns your entire damage zone in a toolbox, which we know of Angel Feathers, but we haven't really seen this all too much in the Angel Feather-like cards for Cater Sanctuary. Now for Bastion, this is huge, because probably all your damage is going to be grade 3, so now if you see a key unit that's hit the damage zone, you can just grab it out with this grade 1 and you now have access to that, which is nice. And even in the Sorcerer's build, there are a couple of grade 3s you're gonna play that are pretty good, like Lepisto, maybe Reflug, maybe even the Countercharger on hit, which name Fossat is probably a card that you might play. So this is another card that allows you to get access to this card on a bit more consistent basis. This card could definitely become a lot better in the future, because it looks to be that grade 3s are going to be the main cards that are going to be introduced for Cater Sanctuary, at least for probably the foreseeable future, so I can definitely see a lot of potential in this particular card. Now, one thing that I'm actually surprised about is that we got actually more Phantom Blaster Dragon support, and this support is actually really good, as we got Witch of Entertainment Brana, which is a 5k grade 1. Yes, she, I believe, is the descendant of the main, and she definitely sticks true to her grandmother, or maybe it's just her mother, with the whole 5k business. But her ability is actually really good, because it continues a rearguard circle. If you have a Vanguard with Blaster in its card name, when this unit would be retired for your card's cost, you may retire it as 2 rearguards. So it's a double retire, which is really good for Phantom Blaster Dragon. And keep in mind, Maka searches out our grade 1s from the top 5. So now we can search out this card as well as Charon, which both can potentially be 2 targets that we can retire. So that's even more consistency for all our important cards for the whole Phantom Blaster archetype. So that's actually really good. But on top of that, we got another card which is kind of questionable, but you might like it for your playstyle, as we got this grade 3 Wheelin's Dragon, which has the ability auto. When this unit is retired for your card's cost Counter plus 1, and Soul plus 1, all of your units with Blaster in their card name get power plus 5k until the end of turn. So this allows you to give your entire field a power buff if you retire this with either Vanguard Dragon or Blaster Dark. Now, I'm not too much fan of this skill, because the problem is that in the most likely scenario, you're gonna activate Phantom Blaster Dragon skill, retire 3 units, which probably this is one of them, and ideally, you're gonna retire the Witch, and then this, and then the rest of your field are all Blaster units. So we have Javelins on the field, we got a Blaster Dark, maybe 2, or Phantom Blaster Dragon, 1 in the Regular Circle, 1 in the Vanguard, and we can give all these units plus 5k power. That's only 20k power for a Soul Blast and a Counter Blast. For a conditional skill, I'm not really liking this all too much. If it maybe was a bit more, or maybe just Counter Blast instead of Soul Blast, maybe I was a bit more on board. But who knows, maybe this extra 5k power on your units actually will make the difference depending on your situation. So who knows, this might actually come up or not. I'm kind of on the fence right now on this card, but it could all change with more playtesting. Now, another grade 3 that we got for Cader Sanctuary is Heavenly Blade of Magnificence Bastida, and it has the ability auto. When this card is discarded from your hand during your turn, cost Counter plus 2 and Soul plus 1, you choose a column and your opponent puts all of their rear guards in that same column on the bottom of her deck in any order. I believe this is the exact same skill as the grade 3 order card, that where you need to Soul Blast the grade 3 to do the same thing, if I'm remembering correctly. The issue that I have with this card is that its cost is a bit too heavy. 2 Counter Blast and 1 Soul Blast. I'm not really digging this. Yes, you can potentially remove 2 cards, so that is then saying worth the 2 Counter Blast, but why is the Soul Blast on that? I don't know. Maybe to compensate for the order card that you don't play it, but this, I'm not really a fan of this, but maybe you are, and you definitely can see potential in this, but I'm not really seeing it. Now, if you take a look at the new grade 2, we got Divine Sister Petite 4, and this grade 2 has the ability, continues on Guardian Circle. If you have 3 or more grade 3 units, this unit gets shield plus 5k. Yeah, this is for me a big pass, because the problem that I have with this card is that she's actually completely useless in the current situation for Cader Sanctuary. She asked for 3 or more grade 3s to become a 10k interceptor or shield. And probably it's going to be shield that you're going to call it from hand, because the moment you have 3 grade 3s, those are probably in the front row. And yes, the Sorcerer's archetype can potentially play that many grade 3s, but there are going to be scenarios that you're going to have grade 2s and grade 1s in the field and not fulfilling this condition. Where you're going to fulfill this is for Bastion, because this is a typical Bastion skill. But if you're going to play Bastion, why not play the Angel grade 3 that also gains shield? Because the moment that this skill is active, the Angel grade 3, the moment you place her in the Guardian Circle, will also have 10k shield. But she can potentially be more shield. And she's a grade 3, which then will interact with Bastion way better than this grade 2. I don't really see this the point of this grade 2, but maybe we'll come up with future support or something, but right now, I'm not really seeing it. Now, a card that I actually do really like is a brand new grade 1, which is Magic of Advancement Melkoko. And Melkoko has the ability auto. When the unit is placed on a rear guard circle, cost Soul Blast 1, draw a card, choose a card from your hand, and discard it. It's cycle. That first draw, then discard. It's the best type of cycle. But the reason why I like this card a lot is because she's basically a different version of the Double or Angel Feather grade 1 from set 1, which retires itself after it's boosted to draw a card. Both those cards cost a soul, and they draw a card, and they lose you a card. But this card stays on the board, and you actually can fix your hand while doing it. Whereas the other grade 1 Angel removes herself from the field, so you're always going to lose that specific grade 1. If you have a hand cluttered with grade 3s and you're not playing Bastion and you're mainly playing Sorceress or maybe another build, being able to discard those cards for better cards is actually, in my opinion, a lot more beneficial. So I like this grade 1 because I can definitely see her being used in all types of builds just to increase the consistency of your strategy. So this is actually a pretty good comment. Now if we move over to Brandgate, we got a new grade 3 for the Cardinal archetype, which is Cardinal Draco Zeljio. And Zeljio has the ability auto rear circle. When this unit attacks, cost Soul Blast 1 and retire a Shadow Army token. And until the end of the battle, when your opponent would call cards from their hand to the Guardian Circle, they must call 2 or more at the same time. So it's a Battledore effect. But why would you actually use this? Like, the moment you have a token behind this, it's already a 28k attack. And a 28k attack already in itself will demand at least 2 cards unless they have the front trigger that becomes 20k shield. It's a very specific situation where this doesn't demand 2 cards from it. Yes, if they want to PG it, they need to drop an extra card, but do they really want to PG a 28k attack? That's kind of iffy. Now, the play where this is actually gonna give you value is that if this card isn't boosted by a token and you have a token on the other side of the column and you retire that token that already has boosted another attack. Yes, I can understand that, but why would you even still want to play this card? There are other cards that can give you more value or increase the consistency of your build, where you will then be able to flood the board with more tokens more easily, which will give you way more value than this particular card will give. If there will be a scenario where a Battle Door effect will actually matter a lot more, then maybe this card will be useful, but right now I don't really see the application of this card. And I'm not even talking about Blitz orders. They could also host this card a lot easier, so yeah, I'm not really in favor of this card. And another grade 3 which I'm not really in favor of is Hard Fist Dragon Metal Knuckler Dragon, as it has the ability to continue as a regular circle. If your persona wrote this turn, this unit gets power plus 5k. Another 18k grade 3 unit, but you only get it when your persona right. I don't really see any of the archetypes for Brandgate that can benefit of this. Imprison, not really, as well as Orifice, also not really, because yes, it's a 28k attacker the moment that your persona right, but you probably have better beaters that can do more. So for me, this is gonna be probably a pass. Now, a grade 3 which I think actually has some application or potential use is Twisting Bulldoze. And I'm mainly referring to the Imprison archetype for Seraph Snow, as it has the ability on a rearguard circle. When this unit attacks, if you have more rearguards than your opponent, cost counter plus 1, soul charge 1, and this unit gets power plus 10k until the end of the battle. Now, you might immediately assume the reason why I think it's for the Imprison mechanic is because they can remove your opponent's field, thus it's easier to acquire the skill. But keep in mind, Orifice can repopulate the board very easily, thus probably having more rearguards than your opponent, and they do have some rearguard retire potential. But I don't really think that this extra 10k power and the counterblast turn against Soul Blast benefit Orifice all too much, especially that they have a lot better attackers and a lot better boosters. But the reason why I think this is actually really good for Seraph Snow is because 1 counterblast equates to 2 binds or 2 imprison, and 1 soul equates to 1 imprison. So you're turning 2 imprisons to 1, as you lose 1 counterblast but you gain 1 soul. But for the trade-off, you get 10k extra power on a unit. And Seraph Snow probably can use a lot of more firepower and a lot more pushing power behind their attack, so more numbers. And I think that 1 Imprison trade for the extra 10k power might actually mean something. I'm not 100% sure if it will change something, but I can definitely see the potential behind this card. So we just have to wait and see with more playtesting if this card actually will come up and might actually be a text choice for Seraph Snow within the set 2 variant of the deck. Now, another grade 2, which is actually really unique and really interesting, is a brand new grade 2 Cardinal Fang Stellate. And Stellate has the ability on a rearguard circle. At the end of each turn, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you and your opponent choose one of their own rearguards and retire it. The turn player chooses first. So, important thing here is, it isn't only at the end of your turn, it's each turn. So every single turn, you're gonna lose a unit and your opponent's gonna lose a unit. But as soon as you're Orifice, you can repopulate your board with tokens a lot more efficiently. So you can easily replenish those losses, whereas your opponent might not really be in that same beneficial spot. And if you're up against a deck that can easily flood the board, you could potentially just call 2 of these grade 2s, and then every single turn they lose 2 units, and after 1 cycle, so your turn and your opponent's turn, they lost 4 units. You're gonna probably lose one of these birds, but you're probably also only gonna lose 3 tokens, which you then can easily replenish with all your other skills. So I like this card a lot, and it might actually come up at some point where we're gonna have some grindy type variant of Orifice that just stalls the game, or just going to outvalue your opponent, where you're gonna freely retire their stuff turn after turn after turn if they cannot deal with this card. And you can potentially just call this bird to the back row if you know they don't have retire options, and it's gonna sit there and they're gonna slowly bleed out of their resource as you're gonna resolve this skill over the course of this entire game, which can be very annoying. and I like it a lot. Now, another grade 2 that I don't really like a lot is Harmful Bite Monster Zabo Carney, and this has the ability on a Vanguard circle. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, if this unit was boosted, cost Cardinal +1, Soul +1, and draw a card. On hit, draw, specifically needs to boost it, and it's overcosted. Yeah, I'm not a really fan of this. We got better options that can give you the draw much easier. We even have an unplaced card for the Orifice build that has the same cost, but it's unplaced, so it's much more consistent getting that draw. So yeah, do with it what you want, but I'm not really a fan of this. Now, a card that I actually do really like is this grade 1 Aurora Battle Princess loaded as Zeljio, and the Zeljio has the ability to continues a regular circle. During the battle, this unit boosted. If 2 or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your prison, this unit gets power plus 5k. So a 13k booster, just like what we saw for Dark Stage. The only difference is, this can also boost your rear guards, which is, in my opinion, a lot more flexible. And as I already stated with grade 3, we need bigger numbers for the prison deck to give some more firepower behind your attacks. And this is a grade 1. It's actually really nice to put that extra oomph behind your attacks. And a lot of the main attackers are going to be grade 2s that become 15k attackers. So together with this grade 1, those are going to be solid 28k attacks you can dish out turn after turn after turn, potentially being 38k if you're gonna Persona ride that turn as well. So we're starting to see extra better numbers for the Seraph Snow deck. Now, if we move to the last nation, Stoicheia, we got a couple of more cards for them, which are kind of interesting, but also kind of iffy to some extent. First off, we got this grade 3, which is Skullfisher Dragon, which is a grade 3 that's 18k base. Keep that in mind. And its ability is continuous Vanguard to Rearguard circle. If you did not call Rearguard from other than hand this turn, this unit cannot attack. So you need to superior call something so it can attack. So in that sense, it's basically like the other grade 3s for the other nations that are 18k attacks, which I don't like. But I do see some premium application in this card because you can ride it and benefit from its defensive value as an 18k base, while also benefiting from its offensive value, because if you stride on top of it, you negate the continuous effect where you cannot attack because your stride unit is going to attack, but they do get the extra power of the 18k base, which is nice for more offensive options. So there might be some premium application, but I'm not sure if it will actually matter. In standard, I'm not really fond of this, and probably not a lot of people are gonna play it. Maybe you're gonna experiment with a weird budget build, but who knows, maybe there will become something. And the reason why I say that is because of the next card. Because the next card is yet another grade 3, Iron Anchor Resentment Dragon. And its ability is surprisingly continuous Vanguard circle. When you would play a normal order, you can bind a normal order with the same card name from your drop and Alchemagic. We got a common Alchemagic boss unit. Now, I want to clarify one important thing here. It is not the same as Zorga. Zorga will Alchemagic with 2 different orders. This can only Alchemagic with the same order, so you double the value of set order. Now, this could actually be interesting for budget builds because it's a common. I don't really think it's gonna be something thrown in the Zorga build, maybe as a one-off for situations where you have double copies of a order. If you run multiple copies of the same order, this can potentially come up. Like, you can resurrect maybe 2 cards and give them both plus 10k or something like that. It really depends on what the playstyle is gonna be and how this will impact. We have the order that can give you a lot of power in criticals. Being able to double up on that and give both your side columns plus 20k in a crit could be deadly, but it all comes down to how you're gonna build your deck and how this will fill the slots. I think it's mainly going to be a budget variant for players that want to play with the Alchemagic mechanic but don't have the money to afford the entire Zorga package. But we have to wait and see if it will actually matter. Now, another grade 2 that's going to support the order-ish playstyle is Coven Shooter, and this grade 2 had the ability Act from Drop Zone. Once per turn, cost Soul +1 and bind an order card from your drop. Call this card to an open Vanguard circle. Now, this is interesting because it allows us to plus on the board without wasting counterblast or sacrificing units. It can resurrect itself, which is nice to populate the board for certain plays. Yes, you need to bind your own orders, which can be a bit counterintuitive against the Zorga variant of Alchemagic, but we have this new grade 1 which can put all those bound orders back into the drop for extra power, and this card can combo with this particular grade 1 for more plays, which can be interesting. I definitely see some potential in the card because a card that can resurrect itself, without relying on other cards can always be pretty good to just flood the boards. It can even be used potentially in Magnolia for always having those enough units on the field. Yes, it's another soul wasting skill, but who knows, maybe we can make the room for it. Now next up we got another grade 2, which is Shooting Mutant Bullet Wasp, which has the ability Continuous Rearguard Circle. This unit can intercept from the back row. So it's a back row interceptor. I don't really think it's anything special. The only thing that it can benefit is for Magnolia, because you're going to call units in the back row. This gives them a bit more shield value. And I believe it will interact with the specific card that needs to call units in the back row, and then you cannot move your units further that turn. Then if you need to call this thing from the top of your deck, you can still intercept it during this next turn of your opponent's offensive, so you get a bit more value off of that. But overall, it's not really that great. Now, next up we got another grade 2, which is Unity Brave Shooter, and it has the ability Auto Rearguard Circle. When its unit attacks, costs Soul Blast 2. This unit gets power plus 5k until the end of battle for each of your other rearguards. Now keep note, she's 5k, so you need to have 2 rearguards, including her, to make her become just a normal 10k. Now, if you have 3 rearguards, including her, she becomes a 15k attacker, and we got other units that can already become 15k attackers without wasting 2 soul, and soul is very important and very scarce, so that's already not good. But she can become a 25k attacker if you have an entire field filled with units. Now, is that great? It depends. Right now, I don't think it's good enough to justify the 2 soul, but maybe with the other playstyle, with the Derpy Maelstrom coming around in set 3, maybe this will actually matter. But it all comes down to what the rest of the support is. In Magnolia, I'm not really feeling it right now, as 2 soul is a bit too heavy right now. Now, speaking about Magnolia, we got another Sylvan card, as we got Sylvan Horned Beast Terra Roof, and Terra Roof has the ability Continuous. This card cannot be ridden, can called or move to the front row. It's an 11k grade 1. Yet another one of these wacky units that can only be called to a specific field or some kind of restriction. Now this card can be called to other back row units, but it can never be moved to the front row, which is kind of awkward. Now in the early game you can boost your units for making solid numbers, and during the Magnolia turn it can become 16k, but 16k is kind of awkward if I'm gonna be very honest. I don't know why they went for the 11k and maybe not just 10, but yeah, this thing exists and I'm not really a fan of it. So we're gonna move on. And now it's time for the last card for Brush with the Legends, as we got this grade 1, Lady Demolish. And she has the ability Auto Rearguard Circle. When the attack this unit boosted hits a Vanguard, you may discard the top cards. You may discard the top 5 cards of your deck. So it's a mill 5. That's a lot actually. Mill 5 is kind of heavy. Now it's free, which is nice, but it has the unboost on your Vanguard, which is kind of restrictive. But if you can call this very early on, you might easily be able to mill 5 cards, which is nice. Now I'm not so sure if this will matter at all, because we already got the double our Maiden that can mill 3 when she's called. And maybe resolving it once, maybe twice is more than enough to set you up for the entire game. So I don't know if milling 5 is anything you want to do. Now luckily it's you may and not you must, so you can get away with it a bit, but it all depends on your playstyle and how much emphasis you put on milling yourself to a certain amount. If only this was a mill 5 for your opponent's deck, then this would be hilarious. But sadly, that's not the case. So for my take, it's a bit iffy right now. And that basically also concludes all the new cards that we got for set 2 Brush with the Legends. And those are actually all the cards for Brush with the Legends. So that said, I'm very excited for this set. There are a lot of very interesting things introduced in this set, but I need to take a better look at all the cards that have been revealed in the last couple of weeks, months, to get a better understanding how powerful this support is for the respective decks, and see where we can go from here for their respective right lines, as well as for Phantom Blessed Dragon and Dragon League Overlord. So I expect dedicated set reviews for each nation very soon. I probably would expect them after this weekend, and then, yes, then we're gonna go into some deck spotlights, because I haven't done them for set 1, but I'm not gonna do them for set 1, because now that we already have the cards for set 2, I think it's kind of a bit late to then go set 1 and then immediately afterwards set 2. So once we're done with the set reviews for set 2, we're gonna dive into this deck spotlights, deck profiles for set 2, with of course the set 1 cards included into it. So we got a big total package for each and every single ride line, so you have a better understanding how we can build them, what type of strategies they can bring, and how you can strategize to make your own personal flair to that respective ride line. So with it said, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of these new reveals. I know most of them are kind of bland and kind of whatever, as these are just the last comments. Interesting enough, this set is one of the first sets for Vanguard, at least, that I've experienced. It happened maybe 1 or twice, that we don't really get any triggers in the set. Yes, we have the new front trigger, rare triggers, but that's it. There are no new basic common triggers to fill the packs, or for sneak peek battles, for the draft variant of Overdress. That isn't really here in the set. So that's actually kind of interesting, because will that mean that going forward, we hardly will see just reprints of triggers because we already got the initial trigger runs? Who knows? Maybe that's going to be the new thing for Overdress, because yes, getting all those triggers over and over and over again during the V-Series was kind of annoying, so this is a breath of fresh air, should I say. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this, and of course, all the cards introduced in this video. As always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely Patreons over patreon.com/VanguardInsider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel, you can simply go to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a Patreon as well. But with that said, I've been Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one!